Welcome to this Gallio-foamish episode of Talking Lamar. Today, I'm talking about the 50th anniversary of the greatest shark movie ever. Let's get to it.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Sorry, I forgot what I was talking about.
What are you talking about?
I am talking to you.
That's just what I was talking about.
It's Talking Lamar.
There is a creature alive today who has survived millions of years of evolution without change, without passion, and without logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws.
Whoa. Wow. I've never heard that before.
That was dramatic.
That was wow.
I'm sure there's a lot of people, probably an entire generation of people, that have never seen the original 1975 movie Jaws. I remember when it came out, and I had to drive 30 miles to see it. And there were not multi-screen cinemas at that time. Every theater had one screen, and they showed one movie. And so you had to stand in line, and this was in Anderson, South Carolina, downtown, and you had to stand in line, and the line would start, and it would go down the block, around the corner, and all the way down the next block if it was a big movie. And you're standing in this line, and you're just hoping that it doesn't sell out before you get to the window to buy the ticket. And we got there like an hour before the movie, and we were around the corner, down a block, like I said, but we got in, and the movie was awesome. It's like something we had never, ever seen before. And that whole dun that thing right there, yep, still haunts you today. And the book itself was written by Peter Benchley, and he based it on a series of shark attacks that occurred actually off the coast of New Jersey in 1916. And after an incident where a New York fisherman, his name was Frank Mundus, he caught a 4,500-pound shark off the coast of Montauk in 1964. And the movie was almost not called Jaws because when Benchley had written the book, he had some other names that he thought about, like The Stillness in the Water, The Silence of the Deep, Leviathan Rising, and The Jaws of Death. And when you think about that, it's hard to imagine any other name other than Jaws. But now that's all we've ever heard. I just don't know if any of those names could have been as cool. It just doesn't feel like it would have. I don't know. But this book sold a lot. He sold a lot of stuff. And Benchley actually had a cameo in the movie. He's the news reporter that's talking to the camera on the beach. But Spielberg, this is one of his first, not his first job, but this was one of his first big jobs. He got the job of directing Jaws because he made the film Duel. Now, I'm satisfied, not very many people know what Duel was. Are you familiar with it, Max?
Except for me,
Spielberg's first movie.
I can remember watching this movie. It was a made for TV movie with Dennis Weaver. Yeah. I can remember watching it with my father.
He was terrorized by this crazy truck driver driving this big old truck. It was nuts. It was really weird. But they felt like because he had shot that, and I know this is far-fetched, but they're like, he shot this movie where this guy is a regular guy and he's being pursued by this truck, and the truck would not stop. It just kept pursuing him. And they're thinking if he could do that with a truck, he could certainly do it with a shark.
A shark.
Now, the trick was the mechanical shark. And the mechanical shark was pneumatically powered by like air, and it was 25 feet long, and it weighed 1.2 tons. And Spielberg named the shark Bruce after his lawyer. And there were 3 Bruces. One was open on the right side so they could reach the controls and they would film it from the left. One was open on the left side so they could film it from the right. And the third was completely skinned like a regular shark. And each one of these cost $250,000. Now, you don't actually see the shark until over halfway through the movie. Now, that wasn't the plan, but the mechanical shark wouldn't work most of the time. Now, there's been a whole big deal about the fact that the shark didn't work. It wasn't the problem that the shark didn't work. When they built the shark worked flawlessly, but they hadn't counted on what it was going to be like when you put it in salt water. And salt water wreaked havoc on the shark. So the shark is just not working. So Spielberg had to come up with ways to shoot around the shark. Well, that's pretty tough since the name of the movie is Jaws and it's about the shark. And he did stuff like, you remember the yellow barrels that they shot to try to slow him down and that kind of stuff? They did all of this stuff from the surface. But in the entire movie, Bruce the shark is only on screen 4 minutes. Think about
it.
This.
It tells you
4
everything
minutes.
about how incredibly that movie was put together, because you're terrified of the thing from the beginning. And then you don't even see it.
Spielberg said that taught him a lesson that audiences can sometimes be more terrified by what they don't see than what, because then they've got it in their mind. And when they shot this thing, they tried to shoot it as low to the water as they could to give you the feeling of being in the water, treading water and that kind of stuff. Now, the movie was scheduled to be shot in like 65 days, but there were so many technical problems, it took 159 days to shoot it. Now, the town that it was the movie was shot in a town called Amity, and it was actually shot on Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. And the ordinances about building there are so strict. Think about it. When we've been up there driving around, everything looks pristine. They keep everything pristine. And all the ordinances, they're so strict that the only thing they were able to actually build was Quint's shack. That's the only thing they allowed them to build.
You're kidding.
Wow. Yeah, no, they're really strict. Now, when you're watching the movie, you remember the billboard that got vandalized, drew pictures on the mayor or whatever. Okay. They let them build that, but they had to build it in one day, shoot it, and take it down in the same day. It couldn't stay up overnight. They had to build it and then tear it right back down. So they were pretty tight about that. And
that's really
Robert
hardcore.
Shaw.
Wow.
Yeah, Robert Shaw was tremendous in that. I thought he was great. He wasn't the first choice. Lee Marvin was the first choice, but he turned it down. So Robert Shaw got it because of how well he did in The Sting. One of the things about Robert Shaw was he didn't make any money on this. He was in so much trouble with the IRS that he had to agree to not get paid, and that money went towards his tax bill because he was so far behind on his taxes. And at one point, if he stayed X number of days in the country, they would arrest him. So anytime he wasn't filming or anytime he was sleeping, they took him to Canada. So he left the country and stayed in Canada unless he was filming.
That's crazy.
He didn't want to get arrested. Yeah. Now, Shaw based his performance on a real fisherman named Craig Kingsbury. And he wasn't an actor, but he appeared in the film as a character actor. And he helped Shaw with the accent, and he shared a bunch of old sea stories that Shaw used in the movie. And so he really helped him a lot. Now, one of the most famous lines in the movie is, "You're going to need a bigger boat." It was totally improvised by Roy Schneider on the day of the shooting. They had some sort of private joke going. They're not really, you don't know what the private joke was, but that was what it was concerning. And so when he said it, there was so much going on, you couldn't really hear it. But then they decided it was such a great line, they reshot everything and gave everything a break where you could get the line in, because it was a great line. I mean, it really was.
So
now,
pause there and think about that whole "we're going to need a bigger boat." That is still a catchphrase today. I still hear
about
people
so many
use
things. People
about
say
so
that
many
constantly.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here it was just completely by chance because it was improvised.
Yeah.
Isn't that super cool?
Yeah. And they were sharp enough to realize that it was such a cool line that they went back and reshot everything so you could hear it. Now, the producer, he wanted real shark footage to be used in the movie. So Spielberg hired some experts to go underwater in one of those cages and shoot. And they were wanting to shoot the sharks attacking the cage is what they wanted to see. And so they got a 14-foot shark. They found some sharks in an area, and they dropped the cage down there. And they used a guy. The actor they used was 4 foot and 11 inches tall, so that when he was filmed in the shark cage next to the shark looked bigger, because Jaws is like 25 foot. So they had to get a smaller guy to make the shark look bigger. But the sharks never attacked. And so he got out of the cage, and for some reason, the sharks attacked the cage while he was gone, but they were still running film, and they actually used that footage. They got the footage they wanted, but not with him in. It was just crazy stuff like that. And eventually, he wrote the book, but he thought that the audience, he hated a lot of things they did. He hated the ending. And in his book, he had so many different plot lines and so many different things going on that Spielberg got sick of it. And so Benchley started griping about the fact that he said nobody is going to buy the fact that if you shoot a scuba tank full of air, that it would blow the shark up. But Spielberg said, by the time we get to that point, the audience has suspended their reality so much, and they're going to believe anything at that point. And they did. Nobody ever questioned that. They wound up they fired Benchley and replaced him with another person for the screenplay, because they just couldn't agree on what was going on.
And you've read the book, right, Lamar? It's very different from the movie. I was shocked. I read the book before I saw the movie, and I was shocked at all the differences. And I can definitely see
people
how they
having
clashed.
affairs, and it was a lot of stuff. Now, Jaws was nominated for 4 Oscars, and it won 3. It won Best Sound, Best Editing, and the Best Score. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest won the Best Picture that year. That beat them out, which I think, if you want to get right down to it, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, it's not like an action blockbuster thriller, but that's a great movie.
You can see how they lost to that one for sure.
Yeah. But this was the first movie. Jaws was the first movie that was released in more than 450 theaters in the United States at one time. And it was the first movie to gross over $100 million at the box office. It was the highest grossing movie of all time until Star Wars came 2 years later. Now, one thing I didn't realize while I was reading some of this stuff is they didn't have summer blockbuster movies. You know how now we release all the crappy movies in January, February, 1st of March?
Right.
We keep all the big blockbusters for summer. In 1975, they put their worst movies in the summer because everybody was outside. Nobody was watching movies or watching TV. All of America was outside. I thought that was it was very surprising. But I get that. I do get that.
I'm kind of surprised because, we didn't have air conditioning a lot when I was a kid. Going to the movie theater seemed like great thing to do to get out of the heat. I'm really surprised by that.
But I just think the country was big on outdoor stuff. I mean, everybody's, they're doing stuff outside. I don't know, but that is completely turned around. Now, here's the other thing. In 1975, when it was released, over 67 million people in the U.S. went to see this movie. That was just a hair under a third of the total population of the country at that time.
Wow.
1 out of 3 people went to see that movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about the lasting impact that movie has had on pop culture,
Oh, God.
It absolutely makes sense. I mean, that movie is 50 years old, right?
Yes.
That's what we're sitting here talking
50.
about. 50
Turns
years
50
old.
year this week.
And
This
yet,
week. Yeah.
and yet there are still people of all ages who hear "dun it" when they're at the beach. Dun it.
Listen.
Yeah.
After I saw this, I was in high school at the time, and we spent the summers. I had a buddy of mine. Better to have a friend with a boat than to have a boat yourself, and he had a boat, and so we stayed on the lake, and we water skiing every afternoon. And after I saw this movie, when I would fall, and I'd be floating, waiting on him to come back and pick me up and give me the rope, let me start back again or whatever. All I could hear, and I tried. I fought it with everything I had. All I could hear in my head was "Dunna, dunna," and in my head. Now I know I'm in a freshwater lake. I know 100% I'm in a freshwater lake. But what you can't see in your eyes, but it's in your mind. Oh my gosh! So I'm just visualizing there's a shark fixing to come up under and bite me, and it seemed like it took forever for the boat to get back. So I would position my ski. I would put my feet back in the ski, and I would put it right under me, and I would say, okay, if the shark. Now this is an idiot. This is an idiot in the water in Georgia in a lake, and in my mind I'm going, now if he tries to get me, he will have to get the ski first. And the whole summer I could not get past that to save my life. It really shook me. That the movie was crazy. It was.
And you
crazy.
weren't even in the ocean.
No, I'm in a lake. I couldn't even got bit by a bass probably, but I'm just saying, I was in my head though. God, I had an imagination. I really did. The question is, if we had not had Jaws, would we ever have had Shark Week? I mean, think about it.
I don't think so. I think Shark Week is the grandbaby of Jaws.
One of the biggest regrets of Peter Benchley's life is the book and the movie created animosity and fear from people about sharks. And he is now like he may have passed by now, but I mean, he went on after this happened. He started being an advocate for sharks and all this kind of stuff. He felt bad about it. He felt like he had done a disservice to sharks as a whole because people. And in fact, when this first came out, the first year it came out in the summer, it came out. People, they started having less crowds at the beach. I mean, there for a year or so, it cut down on the beach crowd. So it was scary.
Statistically,
it really was.
Statistically, you're more likely to be injured or killed by a cow than you are a shark because cows are kind of everywhere and sharks are real specifically located. The problem is that every summer there's a shark attack somewhere, and so it keeps this alive.
Is.
Yeah, it just keeps it alive.
The odds are probably about the same as winning the lottery, except it's better if you win the lottery than get bit by a shark.
When people tell you that, you have a better chance of being struck by lightning while eating a hot dog than you do of getting eaten by a shark. You hear it, but you don't really fully believe it, do you?
Well, no matter how true that is, if you are that one person out of the millions, it's a bad day for you. It is a bad day for you. So, and they say most of the time they really don't try to kill you. Once they bite you, they feel like you're not what they were looking for. Doesn't help you, and if they took your arm off, but I don't think it's nothing
Oops,
personal.
my bad.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of the.
There's your arm back.
Here's another tidbit. If you've seen the movie and there's a point where this arm falls through the water and goes down and lands in the sand, well, they've changed it now. When they shot it, the leg that they had in there, it was a fake leg, of course. and it looked so fake. They had a member of the crew bury themselves in the sand with a scuba thing and put their arm out so that it looked like the arm was laying on the sand, and it was a real arm, because it was a real arm. There was a person under the sand doing that. So
I didn't know that. That's a fun little tidbit right there.
Yeah. There was a lot of crazy stuff. There's a lot of crazy stuff about it. There's actually, I had never watched it. There's a movie that came out a good many years after the movie was made, and it's about the filming of it, and it sort of shows, what all they went through and that kind of stuff. So, Spielberg was smart. I mean, he shot it in a certain way. They made sure that when they were on the boat, he made sure that it never showed anything close to the shoreline, because he wanted you to have the impression that you're in the water. Nobody's coming to help you. There's no help. You're miles and miles out, But now listen, they couldn't give it up until they made, what was the last one they made?
Jaws
the one
3D?
Where the shark, might have been 3D. It's where the shark tracked them all the way from the East Coast. They tracked them all the way down to the Bahamas or somewhere, because it knew their smell, and it was coming to get the family or some crap. I mean, come on, man.
It was stalking them. Yeah, it was stalking them.
Yeah, it was stalking them. Yeah, but nobody stops making movies until it finally fails at the box office. But this thing was big. This was big. It changed everything in the movie industry.
So there was Jaws in 1975, Jaws 2 1978, Jaws 3D 1983, and Jaws: The Revenge in 1987. That's
the Revenge. Yes. Oh my God, it was so ridiculous. So ridiculous. But I'm telling you, if you're listening to this and you have never seen this, you really need to. And I'm sure it's going to be on TV everywhere on the 50th anniversary. It's, and I do believe, although the special effects may not be like what you're seeing now, but they didn't use CGI. They used a fake shark. I mean, they used all this other stuff. But I think it holds up. I really do think it holds up. It's a little campy, but yeah.
We're very close to Shark Week. Shark Week 2025 kicks off on Sunday night, July 6th.
Yep.
So we're tiptoeing up to Shark Week. My favorite Shark Week social media post that I've ever seen was this past Mother's Day. And it said, "Happy Mother's Day to all the moms. And never forget, sharks get a whole week."
That's really good. Well, we've had fun. I hope y'all learned something. And like I say, if you hadn't seen it, you need to check it out. Really appreciate you listening. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, tell somebody you know about the Talking Lamar podcast. I would really appreciate it. Also, check out the True Weird Stuff podcast. I promise you, you will love it, and you will learn a lot of things. Some things you wish you could forget, but you never will be able to. Now, let me go ahead and say, you go on the Bob and Sheri app, look down at the bottom. Won't you click on that microphone and start talking? Tell us some things. Tell us what you love. Tell us what you hate. Just tell us something, because we listen to every message. You can also dial the phone old school, 844-52-SHERI, and leave a message. Until then,